Can you hear me? Yeah. Right then, 7:30. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Economic Development, Regeneration and Tourism Committee. Can I draw everybody's attention to page 3 within the agenda, which sets out details regarding fire safety instructions and webcasting arrangements. People who haven't got an agenda, we meet out in the, is it the Market Car Park? Yes. Market Car Park, and don't come back in until the officers tell you to come back in. Right. For the benefit of those watching from home and those in the public gallery, members of the committee are seated in the front row and all non-members of the committee in attendance are seated in the rows behind. Item number 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Mike Webb and substituting is Councillor Arthur Williams. Non-members attending, we have Councillor Judy Goodin. Yeah. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the... Oh, sorry, Councillor Eaves. She was very quiet there. Right. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of September. Councillor O'Leary, I think you have something to say on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As per our little discussion beforehand, I've had some issues with these over the last week or so. Can we move to defer these until such time as we get them straightened out? I think there's a few bits and pieces missing, including some recommendations for the Mill Hall item from the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. For our discussion, I agree with your points you've raised. I think we should defer them to the next meeting. Is that okay, members? Yep, okay, thank you. Item number 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, members? No, thank you. Item number 4, public questions on notice. There have been no questions have been received. Item number 5, Chair's update. I've got just a couple of little bits to add to that. Let's find it. Right, I've visited both Hockley and Rochford for the Halloween trails. Both were excellent events with wide support from the local communities. Both of these projects were delivered in conjunction with local businesses, with help from the Economic Development Team and UK Prosperity Fund. I also attended Hockley and Raleigh Chambers and updated them on relevant information. Members, I invite any questions on the Chair's update. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to bring out something in regard to the Christmas parking. Possible, please. Sorry, I just want to bring something out in regard to the Christmas parking. Last year, the committee agreed that free parking in the run-up to Christmas would be reviewed annually through the Parking Task and Finish Group and reported back to this committee. Yet this year, there seems to be no reference to the Christmas parking anywhere on the agenda or in your Chair's update. Can you explain why that item has been omitted? Last year's report estimated the suspension of parking charges would cost around £9,000, but yet no financial information or cost estimate has been presented this year. What is the projected cost for 2025 and why is it not being disclosed to the members of the public? Given the Council's statutory best value duty under the Local Government Act 1999 to demonstrate continuous improvement in economy, efficiency and effectiveness, can you confirm what consultation has taken place with traders, chambers of commerce or town teams to determine whether the free parking scheme continues to deliver measurable benefit to local businesses? What performance indicators or data or what data will officers collect to assess its impact on local businesses and residents? And thirdly, how the committee intends to show that suspending charges and again writing off income represents best value for residents and taxpayers rather than like a politically convenient gesture without clear economic return. Thank you.
Thank you for a very comprehensive question there. I seem to remember I did updates on a previous chair's update. I'll have to double check, but we are going to suspend the parking for the 6 weeks period, isn't it, Phoebe? Yeah. So, okay.
Can I ask when or how that was agreed?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to look it up, but previously a decision was taken of the committee that parking suspensions and amendments was delegated to myself in consultation with the chair. I'll look through and I'll make reference to that once I find that report. So we will be honouring Saturday parking as we have done in the past. The financial loss is equated for in the budget. We make that assumption as part of the budget now going forward. If we was not to do that, it would be subject to the chair and consultation with the chair and myself under the delegated authority, and then if the chair would wish to bring that forward to committee as an update. Apologies, we probably should have put in the chair's update, Chair. It's just been omitted.
Councillor Hoy.
Sorry, thank you. I was just going to reiterate what Phoebe just said. Absolutely fine making the decision in consultation with the chair, but the requirement of the Constitution is it must be reported to the next available committee, which would have been this one if that decision's been made. So can we just, good for reference for future, that's all.
Okay, I think I just did report to you that the decision's been made. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Agenda item 6. Q2 performance. The report begins on page 15. Any questions, members? Councillor Hoy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm aware that you did request questions beforehand. I've just been rather busy, but these aren't really questions that I demand an answer tonight on. They're more reflections on issues I've got and which perhaps we could look at for the next report. I think generally I've got this in very small print. So I think the first one was, sorry, I'm on the wrong report. I've got very small typing here. I've now glossed it completely. Sorry about this. Right, I think I'm on the right one now. No, I'm not on the right one.
Yeah, that's fine. Have we got a paper copy? We haven't, have we? If you want to do it, Councillor Hoy, we can got a copy.
No, it's fine. Sorry, Chair. I had the list on my Word document and I managed to delete the Word document. It's very embarrassing. I apologise.
That's fine. Any other questions? No? Okay. So the committee notes that report? Noted. Thank you. Right, members, item 7, Freight House project. I would like to remind members that if any member wishes to discuss anything related to Appendix B and C for this item, I will need to move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that there would likely be disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Local Governments Act 1972. Members, is anybody going to discuss those? Councillor Goodin.
Thank you, Chair. As we know, the current operator has exclusive access to the Freight House, its layout, usage...
Excuse me, Councillor Goodin. I was just asking if anybody was going to read to the exempt items. If they're not, we can just carry on.
Okay.
Councillor O'Leary, you're going to want to go into exempt?
I don't really see how we can talk through this item without referring back to some of the exempt items.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But what I will do is ask Councillor Goodin and Councillor Eves if they're going to talk without the exempt items. If you want to do that now before we move into exempt, then we've got what they're going to say we can take into consideration when we make a decision. Is that okay? Okay, so Councillor Goodin, sorry to cut you off before.
Okay. Firstly, the Freight House was always intended to have a short-term lease with a long-term use to be decided through an open and transparent expression of interest process, giving everyone a fair chance to apply. However, I understand that parish council meetings have mentioned a consortium taking over the Freight House, even though this hasn't come through the formal RDC channels. Could officers confirm that the open expression of interest process is still going ahead as originally planned? No informal arrangements have been made so that transparency and fairness will be maintained through this process.
That's fine. Phoebe, if you want to answer that, or I can answer it if you want.
I do have...
Yeah, also, let me just get to that part. We're still using we're still going to go through open transparency. If they decide to put a bid in or whatever, that's up to them, and they'd be treated exactly the same as anybody else. Carry on.
Thank you. So, as we know, the current operator has exclusive access to Freight House, its layout, usage, data and condition information for several months. How will the council ensure that all potential applicants have access to the same data and technical information so that no bidder benefits from prior operational knowledge when preparing their proposal? Would you like me to carry on to the next one? Will the council publish in advance the full evaluation and scoring framework for the expression of interest process, including the weighting for financial sustainability, social value and community benefit, so that all applicants are assessed transparently and on equal terms? By defining a preferred model of operation, this is from the report, a financial sustainable model blending community use with entrepreneurial activity such as flexible workspaces and social enterprises, end quote. The report appears to mirror the current operator's activities. How will the council ensure this wording does not predetermine or bias the forthcoming expression of interest process in favour of the incumbent?
Can I ask Phoebe if she wants to come back on those points you made?
Thank you, Chair. So the report details that we will bring the EOI process back to the next committee. The report does also highlight that the council wishes to explore options for community management, and we will explore this with interested parties who have initially put their interest in. We are also working with a third party to help us scope that out, and we'll also help any interested parties in the community with their submission. I can confirm that at the next committee, when we would be bringing the EOI process, it would be clear around what the weightings are, what the requirements are, and what the council will be looking to achieve from that process.
I think you've got some more.
Yeah, just some of the proposed capital funding appears intended for facilities renewal that may not be required by alternative operators. Would it not represent better value for money and procedural fairness to commence the expression of interest process now, before any contracts are instructed, so that the prospective operators can inform what works are genuinely necessary for future operators, and the proposed timetable for the expression of interest process appears likely to overlap with the local elections purdah period, when councils are advised to avoid making or progressing significant or potentially contentious decisions. What assessment has been made of the impact this will have on the expression of interest process, and will the council delay or adjust its timetable to ensure compliance with pre-election restrictions and maintain public confidence in the fairness of this process?
Thank you. I think the officer's conferring. You want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. So the report and the costs outline what is required to get the whole building open to the public safely. At the same time, the works will coincide with us running the EOI. There will be an opportunity for site visits for those interested, and there will be opportunity to have discussions around what additional works would be required to the building should the application on that EOI be successful. Regarding the pre-election period, the report tonight obviously has delegated authority to myself to enter into the contracts and carry out the works. Again, with the EOI process, that would be coming to February's committee and would look to delegate authority in consultation with chair. Regarding pre-election, what we wouldn't do is announce anyone in the pre-election period. That would happen after. But the purpose of bringing the report in February is to enable us to carry on the works while pre-election is happening. There would be no announcements during pre-election. So once the contract was awarded, it would be after pre-election.
Can I just come back
One more
on that? Just to clarify that then, so the process will happen even though we are in purdah, it will happen behind closed doors, is that correct?
Sorry, I don't know. Is that working? So it won't happen behind closed doors as such. Obviously, councillors, in accordance with the pre-election period rules, won't be able to publicly go out and talk about it, but that's not to say that a commercial or rather a marketing process or an EOI process cannot continue at that time. So it won't really be behind closed doors, but it will be happening and officers will be doing what Phoebe's outlined.
Okay, we're done there. Okay, Councillor Eaves, I think you might want to say something.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few points, really. Reading through the report, I have a concern about the recommendations 2 to 5. The work that was done to initially open the Freight House had a number of things done there that I have to be honest were a little puzzling, to say the least, as to why they were done. So I would like to propose to the committee that instead of the recommendation being delegated authority to just the officers, but that it is in combination with someone who is experienced in this field in the member area. So that's the main thing. The other things, if an extension is granted to the current licence holder, is there any way the interim operator with an affordable short-term heat, we could help the interim operator with an affordable short-term heating solution during the coldest months of the year? This is to enable the best utilisation of the building in January and February. If anyone has actually been in there recently, the absence of heat in there, I must admit, if there was something going on there, I wouldn't be too keen to turn up. And I dare say that would be reflected in an awful lot of our residents. Last thing, considering the report from the design cabin, which refers to issues with utility bills, would it not be best to agree either to cover the utilities or to set a maximum per month cost to avoid the organisation being hit with a large unknown bill right at the end of their licence period? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Right, members. Right, members. Councillor Hoy.
My comments and questions are quite okay to be heard outside of it. They're not exempt. I haven't referred to it.
All right, that's fine if you want to
So I'm happy to
do it now.
If other members are happy for me to go now, I'm
Yeah,
happy
please.
to go now. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So it's a bit more transparent. So on the freight house, sorry, I've got to go. These microphones are very good. And I haven't deleted this one. Everyone's going to be pleased to know. I think overall the current operator presents a positive and enthusiastic picture of the community benefits. There's no doubt about that. Volunteers have worked hard and the local engagement has been genuine. I think there's some issues which really do need to be addressed, and I'll just really summarise them. So a number of concerns emerge from the data, such as intendance and engagement figures are on estimates rather than independently verified. Financial reporting is incomplete with no expenditure, cost recovery or break-even analysis. In addition, the operator places significant value on volunteer hours, but volunteers cannot replace paid staff in the long term. Partnerships highlighted in the report are informal and non-binding, which means the programming cannot really be guaranteed at the moment. There are also important operational risks. The venue currently relies entirely on volunteer labour, as we've said, or I've said, which is not a stable model for health and safety compliance, licensing activity or regular opening hours. Bar operations present further issues, which I know have been recognised, with no evidence of a licensed supervisor or a viable procurement model. The building itself is not fully fit for year-round use, which we mentioned heating already, and that's already resulted in cancelled bookings and lost income. Financially, the claim that venue can become financially self-sustaining within 28 months is unsupported by any cash flow or staffing plan in these reports. Projected income is based on expected, not confirmed bookings, and at present the income levels would appear to be insufficient to fund paid staff, utilities, maintenance or compliance, each of which is essential for the long-term operations. In terms of strategic risk to the Council, the financial compliance and continuity risks remain high. Public expectations are being raised, and I know the public are very interested in this, before viability has been demonstrated. To be clear, the pilot, as I've said, has shown good interest, but it's not demonstrated the sustainable model that we'd expect. I think without these, it's difficult to prove it can continue. I would just move to my other points, which are summaries, which would be, so I think in summary, what I'm trying to say is, I'd like to have some evidence or proof or some more work done, which would provide a fully costed business plan with cash flow forecast before I could agree to this. That's normally something that we do with a business plan. I'd like the paid staffing model and volunteer structure identified. I'd like to see secured licensed DPS, that's a designated premises supervisor, and compliance protocols in place, or to see how they would work, and a costed and identifiable funding route for the building heating repairs. I know we talk about looking for funding solutions, going out to find these, but it's a very early stage. It's just wishful thinking at the moment. And I'd also like a formal governance and reporting framework as well, to moving forward, so that we as a committee can see how this is working. So they're the suggestions I'm making.
Okay, can I just bring your attention to page 29, 1.7, current operations. One purpose of the interim use of the freight house is to gather meaningful data, evidence determining activities and approaches that are successful within the space, which should help to inform the options of the longer term use of the building. Such a licence agreement between the council and the design cabinet includes specific reporting obligations to ensure transparency and accountability to inform further decision making. This, I believe, was put in by the last administration on the way they wanted it reported back. So we have received the report. It doesn't mention, or it's looking for, it seems to be looking for, is the meaningful evidence to determine that activities and approaches are successful within the space, which could be help to inform the options for longer term use of the buildings, which I do believe the report is given back, is there for us to decide ourselves if that is what we asked to do. If Phoebe would like to come in any more on that.
Thank you, Chair. The report that Design Cabin have provided the council is an interim report. There will be a final report that they will provide as part of the licence agreement. And I'd like to mention they turned this around very, very quickly for us and put a lot of time and information into it. It is a guide. It's how they are operating the building currently. With the EOI process going forward, a different operator will operate the building differently, and as part of their financial proposal, they would have to put their business case forward, which would evidence all the financial information of how they would operate, what the cost would be, their assumptions that it would make, and that would be considered as part of their financial submission under the EOI and scored accordingly, like we've done with the original EOI process for the meanwhile use, which Design Cabin inputted into. So the information there is a guide, and as you quite rightly pointed out, Chair, it looks at what the hurdles have been. It's difficult in a 6-month period to get established. It looks at what has been achieved, what could be achieved, and as I said, it's a guide to look at the future and the possibilities.
Got Councillor O'Leary and Councillor Belton.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly on that. The report from the interim operator isn't just an interim report. It's also a proposal for about what they want to do with the place in the future. I'm just wondering why we're allowing the interim operator to come forward with such a proposal without letting other people put the same proposals in at the same time, if they were interested.
Phoebe?
The report is not my report. The report that Design Cabin put in is Design Cabin's report. Therefore, we have appended to the report as supporting documentation. I cannot comment on what Design Cabin have put in there. All I can comment on is that the information that provides the guide to support the decision making around the recommendations in this report, which is to allocate the budget and to then look at an EOI process. It's not my data as such, therefore it's appendixed.
Is it okay? One more, then I'll
yeah. I mean, because it is relevant, right? We do have the ability. We do have, we don't just need to randomly just chuck stuff in an appendix. We could redact stuff. We could have taken the report to be an interim report, not as a proposal. So, again, I think my point still stands. But I get that it's not Phoebe's report.
Okay, Councillor Belton.
Thank you. I'm not going to be talking to the exempt tonight, so I can just go. I'm going to pick up on a couple of points that I've heard, if I may, as well. So I'm happy to support the recommendations. The reason that I think option 3, in terms of moving forward with the works that have been set out, broken down within the exempt, is because that does get the building open, and it feeds into the consultation that was done with residents last year with the type of space that they want that building to be. Option 2, whilst it's exciting and it's ambitious, it comes with risk because it could be unachievable to deliver given LGR is coming. And And also, I don't think it properly represents what the residents told us they wanted from the survey that was completed. So I think we're on track to deliver what residents are asking for. I hear what other members have said about doing the EOI first, but as I think it was Phoebe confirmed, these works aren't about the usage, they're about the building, making the building safe, compliant in its entirety, not just the space that's being occupied at the moment. In terms of extending the licence, which is one of the recommendations, the options are extend the licence or the building recloses again at the end of the licence period because we haven't got a new operator. So actually extending that licence allows Design Cabin to keep doing the good work that they're doing. It allows the community to use the space if they wish to. And it generates more data. It allows us to look at those other things that are coming in that will help everybody with their EOIs that come forward. Regarding the proposal, as it's been referred to within the report, as per our asset strategy, anybody can put in EOIs pretty much at any time. And actually, somebody else has already put in a very comprehensive EOI for the Freight House, and that's on next week's strategy and finance policy meeting. And we're making a recommendation as to what to do with that at this stage because it overlaps with this report and this piece of work. So at any point in time, anybody could say, I'm interested in an asset you own. Somebody was interested in this asset, but the recommendation that's coming forward is the council now have a use for this asset, so it wouldn't be appropriate. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that being in there because it doesn't bias anything and anybody can put anything forward. And indeed, they already have. There's lots of them and they are all detailed thoroughly in the report. So I'm quite comfortable with that. To Councillor Eve's earlier point, he won't be privy to the fact that you'd already circulated to say you wanted to amend the recommendations to include consultation accordingly, because I think that is positive. And we know that this is a big ticket item, and I think it's important that members are involved in anything that has such a massive impact on the community. So overall, I'm comfortable with it all. One thing I will say regarding the exempt, I don't need to talk to it, but the figure that we've got within the budget is a budget, and we will be looking to make any savings that can be made and to get bang for our buck. So every pound spent is a pound well spent to get value for money. But I think it's important that we have that budget in there with those high-level figures so that we can go out and address the works accordingly. So I'm happy to support all the recommendations, and I really feel it touches on the work done last year by the administration around the Freight House, gathering that information from residents, the £500,000 budget that was put in for the Freight House. So I'm comfortable that we are bringing together something that gives the community what they want, gives the stakeholders in our community, the third parties, the other organisations that are interested, an opportunity to get involved and work together, and also factoring in the work that the last administration had done on pulling things together in terms of data and costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belton. Just want to say on the report, I'm very loath to edit anybody else's report at all in any way because our national broadcaster's got in quite a bit of trouble for doing just that with someone else's words. Councillor Marriott, she had a question.
Well, one of the points has already been covered by Councillor Belton. I was a little bit concerned that it was only extending the current operator's licence for a mere 2 months. That doesn't give them a lot of time to plan. And also, was it investigated in any way that it could be done in such a way that the building wasn't shut for 6 months, done in stages or something? Because we've just put a lot of effort into getting that building up and running again. And I was very disappointed to see that it's just going to be shut again for 6 months and the summer months at that.
Thank you, Phoebe. Do you want to come back to that?
Unfortunately, no, we need vacant possession of the building for the works to carry out. We won't be able to phase any of the works. We need to replace the whole heating system. We need to have intrusive works done to the roof, etc., and that as well. So it would disrupt anyone in there. It wouldn't be a nice environment to operate from. So we need to take vacant possession back. It would delay the programme as well. The works would take longer by having someone in there as well if we were trying to phase any works around it. So to deliver as quickly as we can, we propose to take the building back to get the works all done, completed all at the same time.
Thank you. Councillor Sutton. We're not looking to the exempt. Okay, cool.
I had something written down, but I think I've got to go away from what I was written down because I'm a bit concerned about some of the things. It was brought up about ring fencing nearly £500,000 for the Freight House last year, and at the time I remember we discussed that £500,000 seems a bit of like a finger in the air number, and I think that's coming to fruition now in the sense that we're sitting discussing £590,000. What concerns me is, of that £590,000, it seems to be a very quick, short-term fix. It brings the building up to a current needed standard, or even like a standard that should have been obtained maybe a few years ago. It's not forward-facing into what's needed to secure the asset for maybe the next future 10 years. Of the points that I had, I think this ties into it quite well, actually, that in that money, in that 590,000, there is nothing set aside. There is no budget line for the lift that needs replacing or fixing. I mean, that tune of that bill in itself is going to be a good sizable six figures. As you know, the background that I come from is hospitality. Like, looking at the budget line for the waterworks there, it doesn't allow any amendment to the back bar or running water, hot water, which you need for a bar. You need that to be able to wash glasses, cut fruit, wash hands. So this doesn't give it full operational facilitation for the bar. So we're going to open it up, but you still can't use the bar. It seems a bit short-sighted. And then, like the acoustics, there's still no. The installation of ceiling mounts, sound absorption should have been something to be considered if it's going to continue to be used as a venue. Those four factors there, that original £590,000 that's ring fenced isn't enough money to get the building up to the standard it needs to. So if we've got to close the building for a period, we're going to close it just to get it operational to a basic standard before we can look at reinvesting to get it open for any future operator. And of that 590,000, it doesn't necessarily bow towards what kind of long-term operator we've got. We may get an operator that comes in there and says, all the electrics are wrong, they are not suitable. We're going to have to spend more money, more time to remove some of the installations that have been put in there anyway. That brings me on to the contingency, the 5% contingency. I think 5% contingency for a building like this is extremely ambitious, and it's almost setting ourselves up for not enough. In my opinion, I think 5% is too short. Just to finish, it's as well. The 28-month break-even target is optimistic. If these extras and any procurement delays aren't fully accounted for, what alternative operating model do we pursue if tenders run late or they run over budget? The Office report refers to the current operation as moving toward a financially sustainable model and cites a 28-month break-even project as fact. However, the supporting data shows only 11 bookings in 18 weeks, 3 of which were council-related and continued operating losses. This represents utilisation rates similar to or below the 20% occupancy that led to the building's original closure. What verification was undertaken to confirm the 28-month projection and to ensure the report presents an accurate, unbiased assessment of performance before being issued to members? So just to summarise, the 4 points that I'd like to get a response on is what we're going to do about the accessibility, how are we going to take into consideration the bar operations as well as the acoustics? Could we look at readdressing the contingency, the 5% contingency for that, and also the timeline of the break-even, assuming it defines a fallback model?
I can answer the timeline break-even. That's part of Design Cabinet's report, if I remember correctly, which would be one of a number of OAIs. So that's not really for us to discuss at the moment. But Phoebe, if you'd like to come back on the other ones.
The report, as I've previously said, highlights the amount that needs to be spent to bring the building into a compliant and safe use. It doesn't address the lift, but the details in the exempt appendix with the budgets is the high level works. So beneath that is more detailed works programme. The elements you highlighted about the water and the bar and that, they are included in that. But I can, as the report highlights, there is no budget allocated for the lift.
I do believe if you look at the exempt report, other points are highlighted in there, and quite good. There's nothing in there in the lift at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, the lift seems to be a bit of a major issue. It's not very forward facing. You know, it's 2025, and now we're making the building inaccessible for certain people, and not budgeted a major line in there.
Okay, thank you. Fiona?
Yes, I take the point about the lift. Within the budget we are proposing, we're doing the maximum to bring the building back into good repair. Obviously, we will then conduct an EOI assessment process. If all the bids come back and say we can't possibly take this building without some further works, one of which might be the lift, then clearly that's something we will report back. But until we've gone and done a full expression of interest process, it's really hard to know who might take the building on and what kind of uses. In terms of the Disability Act, I take your point. The Disability Act requires reasonable adjustments. So again, once we get an operator on board, we will need to work with them to see what reasonable adjustments can be made to make sure the building is as accessible as possible.
Thank you. Okay, so Councillor Belton.
Thank you. Just one point, because I think it will be useful. We've got the actual budget work coming up, and these are exactly the sorts of things, because Councillor Sutton raises some good points, some things that we've discussed as well. Certainly around the lift has been discussed with lots of members. These are the sorts of things that I'm urging members from across the chamber to bring forward and say we need to consider this. We've got a capital programme to put together, and if there's good ideas and good experience, it doesn't need to come from an administration, it just needs to come from the council or from anybody else that wants to feed those in. So this is the opportunity for us to look at what we can spend on next year. We're working with the budget that we have, the options that we have to make this work right now, to get it to a sustainable space, but that's not an exciting or an ambitious space. That is a sustainable space that reflects some of what the community have asked us for. But there's absolutely opportunity within the capital programme to look at other ideas, and I'd welcome those coming forward as early as possible so that officers have got time to present us some figures so that we can see if they're viable as well as good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belton. Councillor Williams, do you want to say anything out of PNC? Okay, so I'll now take a vote because Councillor Levy wants to address some points in PNC. So those in favour of excluding the press and public, please. That's carried. Councillor Hoy abstaining or not voting? So I didn't get abstaining. Yeah, okay, fine. So Councillor abstained. Everybody else, yes. Okay, so members of the press and public, if you can leave, we will call you back in when we've debated bits in PNC. Okay, looks like we're back on live stream. So, members, I will now move a motion that the recommendations on page 27 and 28 be approved together with the proposed amendment to recommendations R2 to R5. There's going to be a slight amendment to the amendment to include, so it would say on them, just turn the page, in consultation with the leader of the council and chair. So I was being informed we should be putting in there. Can I have a seconder, please? Or do we do the seconder first, then we can discuss it? Councillor Belton. Councillor Hoy.
Thank you, Chair. I have emailed Paul Adiri, our monitoring officer, about this, and I was going to make the suggestion tonight that it was changed to the Director of Assets in consultation with the Chair of the committee, as would be normal in something like this, and that's what has happened previously, and that was the advice we used to have from the previous monitoring officer. I'm uncomfortable with it being delegated to the leader of the council, because I don't believe that we have the power to do that as a committee, and there's nowhere in the constitution which allows a committee to defer anything to the leader. The leader, as Councillor Belton has raised previously, in this committee system has no power. They're a spokesperson. Obviously, Councillor Belton has powers as a leader of the group and bringing people together politically, and also as the chair of the strategy, policy and finance committee. But there is nowhere in the constitution which it says that they have the power to make the decision in consultation, or that we have the power to do so. So I would prefer it just to be to the chairman of the council, if that's possible.
Okay, Councilman. Right.
Thank you, Chair. The monitoring officer has updated me and said, whilst the committee can agree that you consult with the leader in delegated decision making, there is nothing to prevent this. It is not unconstitutional. Her suggestion would be that as a matter of good practice and governance, that you consult with both leader and the chair if the committee wishes to do so.
Okay, so I'll take a vote to consult with the leader and the chair with going on the advice given by the monitoring officer. So those in favour? 4. Those against? 3. No abstentions. Okay, thank you. We will now vote on the recommendations. I'm going to be cheeky and say to take them en bloc, or do you want to do them individually? Okay. Right then, so recommendation 1, that the committee approves option 3, targeted investment for reopening, and allocate a budget of £585,390 from the council's capital programme to carry out essential building works and improvements required to reopen the Freight House for year-round use, in line with the 2024 Stock Condition Survey recommendations as detailed in the report. Right, members, those in favour? That's 4. Those against? Those abstentions? 3 abstentions. Recommendation 2, that a committee delegates authority to the Director of Assets and Investments in consultation with leader of the council and the chair of this committee to procure a contractor and enter into all necessary arrangements to deliver the capital works programme detailed in Appendix C up to a value of £585,390 as detailed in the report. Members, those in favour? That's 4 in favour. Those against? 3 against. That's carried. Recommendation 3, that the committee delegates authority to the Director of Assets and Investments in consultation with the leader of the council and the chair of this committee to extend the existing interim licence with Design Cabin CIC until until the end of February 2026. Those in favour? That's 4 in favour. Those against? 3 against. Recommendation 4. The committee delegates authority to the Director of Assets and Investments, in consultation with the Leader of the Council and the Chair of this committee, to undertake a review of community-led management options for the whole building in advance of an expression of interest process, EOI, and bring the findings of the review and the proposed EOI programme to a further meeting of the committee. Those in favour? 4 in favour. Those against? 3 against. That is carried. Recommendation 5, that a committee delegates authority to the Director of Assets and Investments, in consultation with the Leader of the Council and the Chair of this committee, to submit bids for external grant funding as appropriate to support the cost of refurbishment, improvement works to the building, and to enter into any funding agreements associated with such grants. Those in favour? 4 in favour. Those against? 3 against. That is carried. Just a clarification, I forgot to say recommendation 1 was carried. It was. Okay, members, we move on to item 8. Update on the culture and visitor economy strategy 2025 to 2030. The report begins on page 91. Any questions, members? I'll give you a couple of seconds to get to the page. No, okay, this report is to be noted. Sorry, Councillor Hoy.
Sorry, my error. I thought Councillor O'Leary had indicated there. Just a couple of points. I've got no problem with the strategy at all. I think it's a very good strategy, as I should do.
Because you did it.
I think the whole council like the strategy as well. I've just got a few concerns, really, and I just want some assurance around this as well, if I can. The first one is, obviously, there's been some dependency in the past on the UK SPF money, and that ends in March 2026. And I just wonder, that was really funding core staff and growth bids. But I just wonder if we've got anything in mind for how we're going to replace that money. Also, at the moment, we've been focused on branding and enabling activity, I suppose it might be called. I wonder how we're going to start looking at how this is actually impacting the district, what the growth is, what the visitor numbers are. So what KPI numbers we can use for that, such as overnight stays, etc., which we've had in the past from Blue Sail, and why I was so much in favour of a hotel in the district.
Should we address those two and come back? You've got your notes?
There's a few more, but...
Yeah, we'll do those two then.
Major. If you want to take the first two first.
Laurie? I think it's probably your...
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Hoy, in regards to your first question about the budget, we are waiting to see what comes out of the Chancellor's statement on the 26th of November to see whether there will be an extension to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund or some other similar funding. In the meantime, we have submitted a growth bid to continue delivery of the tourism programme and to extend the role of the tourism officer. And in terms of the KPIs, we've been advised by our consultants, Blue Sail, that there are a range of sources that we can go to get the data, but that we won't be able to get that information, if you'll pardon the pun, overnight.
Okay, Councillor Hoy, got a couple more?
There's a couple of questions I'll leave out. I just want to move on to LGR, if I may. Because obviously it's going to come into everything. I think I'm going to mention it again tonight, actually. I'm just wondering how we are going to integrate our cultural and visitor economy policy into a new unitary authority, whatever one it may be. And I will not preempt that here. I've been speaking to a number of people at some of the courses I've been on recently, and there seems to be a distinct problem of where the culture hits unitaries. The culture seems to take a back seat, and I'm very concerned about that, having been
which
chair of
culture
this
do they
committee
choose?
previously. And I'm concerned that there seems to be a passing down of culture onto parishes and towns, which I think we as a council seem to be, as many councils do, seem to think they're the answer to everything. And I think it's a bit of a burden for parishes to expect to do that. So I just wonder if we're paying any thought to that and have any plans to actually talk to other councils which may be in our unitaries once that is decided, which hopefully will be about January, February time.
I think that might be more of a question for Jonathan. I think Fiona wants to come in, and it's going to be all in negotiation, I expect, when we find out what's happening.
Yes, I'm not sure we can answer that yet until we know what the split of unitaries is likely to be. Obviously, we continue to have good relationships and partnerships. One of the fantastic work that Gemma's been doing is fostering relationships with other local authorities. But until we know the split of unitaries, I don't think we can meaningfully have any conversations about what role culture might play in any economic growth strategy or anything else.
Anything else, Councillor Hoy? Okay, Councillor Belton.
I just really wanted to thank Laurie and the team. Gemma, I think she's been a fantastic asset. I think she was absolutely a brilliant appointment, and I hope that we can get the funding to keep her, because I don't think there's any doubt that Rochford is a great place for culture and tourism, and we need to do the absolute most to harness that. And I know that's something that lots of people across this council are extremely passionate about. And Councillor Hoy's right, we've got to do the work to ensure that we protect that, and we can't just rely on the parishes, but we also have no control over what comes next. I think that's what makes this strategy so important for the next 3 years, is that we put ourselves firmly on the map, as Gemma has been doing, building those relationships, attending lots of external events, the 4-page in Essex Life, all of those things are just strengthening our presence in what's going to be a very different situation in a few years' time. But certainly where Essex is concerned as a county, Rochford is well and truly up there. And I think anything we can do to support Gemma and the team to keep delivering that is going to be beneficial to everybody, not just culture and tourism, but well-being, the economic benefits and everything else that goes with having a strong visitor profile. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else on this report? Councillor Hoy.
Sorry, could I just add, I was going to speak to you outside the meeting, but I'll just raise this in the meeting so everyone can hear this. I did attend a cultural services course recently, and I'm happy to share a report from that with the chair and the members of this committee if they want to. I think it was quite insightful, some of the things which came out of that, and I'm happy to do that if the chairman is willing to distribute that.
Yeah, it's fine. Any information is great. Right, so this report is for noting members. Is the report noted? Noted. Thank you very much. So, item 9. Yep. Right. The update on the Rochford District Economic Growth Action Plan. The report begins on page 127. I'll give you a couple of seconds to find the page. We're all there? Okay, so any questions, members? Councillor Hoy.
I might as well go first again. Thank you. I'm just getting to the right part. So, again, I've got no problem with this. It was approved in March, I think. Is that good? Just a few issues, I think. I think, obviously, the vision is strong. The vision is very strong, I think. The delivery is developing, obviously, and the impact we are hoping to see. Again, I assume the answer around LGR will be the same as the answer for the cultural visitor strategy. So I'll put that there, and if the answer is different, I'm sure I'll be told.
We haven't had an update in the last couple of minutes, have we?
Yeah.
No. Sorry, so it'd be the same answer.
I've just wondering about there's been a lot of delivery outputs up to now, with lots of successful launches. I just wonder, it seems a little bit uneven how that's been measured. On the quality dashboard, how will we be measuring those in a bit more clearly? those? That's the first question.
You got the question, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Yes, we'll bring back an update at the end of the year because we'll be asking you to approve the new action plan for 26-27. We'll report back on the final outputs, outcomes, and KPIs at a future meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. With funding, again, I assume the answer will be the same as for the cultural visitor economy. We've been quite dependent on UK SPF again, and I just wonder, obviously without the UK SPF funding, a lot of the actions that we want to do can't really happen or will be very difficult. So would that be the same answer again?
Would it be the same answer again? Not these affirmative there. Item 10, the committee work programme. Report begins on page 151. I'll give you a couple seconds to scroll down or flip through. Is there anything anybody wants to add? Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chair. I did write to you a few weeks ago expressing very minor exasperation about the fact that we've had more meetings added to this at short notice than would be the case in other committees. I get it, it's a new administration, there's things you want to do, but the extra meeting we've now put in December, I mean, we would have had 5 meetings in 7 months. And this committee, its terms of reference, or its whatever you want to call it, is to meet once every 3 months. So I'm just asking, as we go forward, we seem to only have 2 meetings, the December one and the February one, lined up. Is there any plans to add any extra meetings in? And if so, could we avoid school holiday periods, if possible? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. At the moment, we haven't got any plans to add any more meetings, but we never know what's going to turn up. And I'm sure another member of your group could stand in for you if there is a problem. And I'm sure you'll probably fully brief them on what questions you want asked. Okay, so Councillor Hoy.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly on car parking, on the 30-minute free parking, there are issues identified in the reports that come back. If I forward those to the officers and to you, Chair, that I'd like them identified at that meeting on the 16th of December, so that I'm happy with what we're voting on and has the data I would like, is that acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please do expedite the meeting, hopefully.
Yeah. And when will we get the report just 7 days before, or will there be an opportunity to see some of this earlier? Because I understand the leader of the council has already announced that there's interesting data available on footfall, for instance, which I wasn't sure where that came from. That was all. So
okay,
data around somewhere, which
I'll just ask Phoebe to come back on the availability of the report, then I'll let Councillor Belton come in.
We will still adhere to the current timetable, which will be the 7 days, the 5 working days before we will release the information. It's going to be a tight turnaround for the officers to collate all the information. So if we can have anything from the committee members of questions or anything, that we can start looking at that now, to make sure that when we bring the information, we cover everything off.
So early as you can make your questions or queries available to the officers, it would be most helpful. Councillor Belton.
Thank you. I'm happy to clarify on the data that I've spoken about. So I asked the question of the officer in October, how many 30-minute tickets were used in September, and he was able to confirm it was around 21,000. I can't remember the specific number, but that was the data that I've seen, and that's not a secret. I just asked the question and was told the answer. The footfall data that I get is, I'm a member of the Chamber of Trade. I attend all of their meetings, and Frank, the chairman of Rayleigh, very helpfully shares his footfall data, which shows everybody that comes through Rayleigh Lanes, which isn't a footfall counter for Rayleigh, but it's a very good indicator. And it was helpful to see the trajectory has gone up through our trial, but we can share that information as part of the report. But certainly the bigger data will come from Stuart Anderson and the car parking machine company, because that's the data that we need to rely on. The footfall data is just because I'm interested. Thank you.
That full data, if we share it, we need to get permission from the Chamber. He's given permission. Okay. Councillor Hoy.
On that, I think that's the date. I think that's what I saw probably from the minutes of that meeting. I think I saw that. I'd just be very wary, because I know that Frank is also doing quite a lot of heavy advertising on Facebook over the last month or two as well, which may be the reason for the increased data there. So as Councillor Belton says, it's probably best to rely on the data from the officers, I think.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, is that report's for noting as well, so noted. Thank you very much. That now concludes our business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance. The time is 8:53. Thank you very much.